first game of Total War Warhammer 3, and you decided to run Taurox the Brass Bull, this is how to play Total War Warhammer 3 in 2024. If you would like to see any other factions or races in the game and how to play them, just let me know in the comments below. Should be a good time had by all. Anyways, as you load in, you will be given a how they play, which is a quick rundown of how your faction plays and what suits them best. The Beastmen are a horde faction, so they don't necessarily control settlements, but we do raise herd stones to gather marks of ruination. The more herd stones and the more marks of ruination you have, the more powerful your faction and armies can become. Kai, congratulations! Soon to be wed. That is wonderful. Typically, each faction will have a faction ability or just buff or something that particular race is good at. Beastmen are good at ambushing, utilizing the woods to hide and take down their opponents. They can also utilize beast paths, which allow them to traverse otherwise difficult terrain. For instance, I could cross these mountains instead of having to go all the way around through here. I could just come to this valley and hop over, essentially, or go under, essentially. For most, if not all, factions, you will start off with your legendary lord and a standard default army with a few powerful signature units, and then you have a shaman or spellcaster of some kind to implant in your army or to send out and do missions. So, for instance, I could send them to hasten challenges, which reduces research time for this faction for 3 turns. You can also send other lords and minor characters to assault garrisons, assassinate other lords or heroes, disrupt trade or cause corruption, so on and so forth. There's a multitude of different things you can do with lords and heroes, but most of the time I just implant them in the army so that they can act as a support unit during battles. Now for Beastmen, particularly Taurox, you have a rampage bar, essentially, or bestial rage. The higher this rage is, the more growth you get, essentially, after battle. So you're able to recover quickly, and able to continuously attack. The main thing that Taurox has to do is build Marks of Ruination. So with each Marks of Ruination level, the first one unlocking at 24 marks, unlocks different units. And as it gets higher and higher, you get more buffs, higher army capacity, and better units, with the end goal being Ruination level 8 or 500 marks. Typically, Beastmen will receive different buffs with different phases of the moon. It's currently in the dark moon phase, so we get a higher casualty replenishment rate, and the next one will be a full moon, so we have 7 turns of plus 8% replenishment rate. Another thing with Taurox is that after every successful battle, he can increase his movement speed to continuously attack, making it very powerful for chaining attacks against tightly packed settlements. For instance, after we attacked Clara Carond, we should be able to reach the Venom Glade if we play our cards right. The next thing you're going to want to check is your units. What are available? Do you want to spend time recruiting now or attacking? What I like about Beastmen and some Horde units is that you can recruit from anywhere, because you're essentially going off of your encampment as a Beastman. So once you're in hidden encampment, you can also improve your buildings through military the military building tree. Right now, we can't get into anything because we have to get to Tier 2, which is achieved by a population surplus, which you can see on the left-hand side right here. So in about 4 turns, we will gain another surplus point. When we have that one surplus point, we can build the next step in the war herd, which would allow us, again, same thing as the Marks of Ruination. The higher level we get, the higher level units we can have. More powerful units, we can take on more powerful settlements and more powerful armies. But either way, we are going to get our first battle underway. If you have any questions in the comments below, just let me know. But without further ado, we are going to attack Clar Carond. So, you're about to enter your first battle, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the battle preview screen. When it's a siege battle, you'll have an available siege equipment button or tab pop up. You can construct battering rams and siege towers. All infantry units are capable of climbing walls with ladders if you want to go that route, but it'll often be more costly to your troops as you have to deal with their ranged units and towers attacking you. You also have the negative side is if you decide to build siege equipment, you risk this faction calling in reinforcements while you lay them under siege. Now, I can auto-resolve this battle. I can continue the siege, I can fight, or I can retreat. We're not retreating. We're gonna go into the fight. You can continue the siege and wait out the enemy, starve them out essentially, forcing them to attack you. But again, that's the same thing as waiting for the siege equipment to be built. You risk them calling in reinforcements or having reinforcements come in and ruin your chances of even taking the settlement in the first place. If you decide to auto-resolve, the Pyrrhic victory and casualties is the auto-resolve outcome. So that is if you decide to auto-resolve. Typically, auto-resolve will save you a lot of time and annoyance and micromanaging, but I think that's where the fun is in Total Warhammer 3, is the battles. Siege battles can be a bit grueling, but they are still fun, and without further ado, let's get into our first battle. Just to show y'all how it's done. Hopefully I don't choke against the Dark Elves. Now, the main thing for battles, for the most part, is infantry up front, artillery and ranged units in the rear, with your faster units and cavalry on your flanks, keeping your lord and spellcaster somewhere behind your infantry, but typically not on the front lines, depending on your lord and what they got to work with. Right now, not a lot, since we're just starting off, essentially level 1. But as your lords and heroes level up, they become more powerful, can take on other more powerful lords, and also possibly multiple units by themselves. It's just about playing to the strengths of your faction in particular and what they do best. Now, for the Beastmen, they are often lightly armored and fast. So what you want to do is get set up to hit the enemy faction or enemy team hard, hit them fast, and get out of there. As typically you are not wearing a lot of armor, their ranged units can tear you apart quite easily. That's the danger against fighting elves, is they are known for their ranged units. What the advantages that the Beastmen have is that they have something called Vanguard deployment, which will allow them to essentially deploy outside of the designated zone that most troops have to stay in. This can give you an advantage in terms of flanking, rushing walls, just getting better positioning overall for your troops and setting you up for a better chance of success. And of course, with a siege battle, it's all very different, as the enemy has walls, towers, and a stronger defensive position, so your ranged troops can't necessarily hit them as hard. So we finally get a look at our army. And what I love about this game is they do a great job essentially with their miniatures. You can see the detail in your troops. We got Minotaurs, Taurox right here. This is our main big boy. He's a giant brass bull. If you want more lore about him, there are pages and pages of it on the interwebs. We then have a spellcaster in the back, and they are usually utilized for troop support rather than engaging in combat, so try to keep them away from the front lines. As you can see, we have a quick pop-up. We can decide to channel magic or just start deployment. Channel magic, essentially, is channeling how much spellcasting or winds of magic your spellcaster and lord, basically every magical unit in your army, has at their disposal. So right now we have a starting power of 10 with 50 in reserve. Recharge has been blocked, though, so we can't necessarily recharge too quickly. So we might want to risk channeling the magic to get more winds of magic to essentially help us out in our spellcasting ability. So we'll give that a shot. Unfortunately, the winds have evaded us and we lost magic, so we'll be starting at a disadvantage, both in power and power reserve. Once you start your deployment, you will have access to see what spells are all equipped with your guy, who's running what on your lord side in terms of abilities, and who all has what. Now, if you select multiple units, you won't see anything, so you have to select that specific spellcaster in particular, or that specific lord, if you want to cast or activate their specific ability. Because if you select multiple, you won't be able to. So, we want to get set up to attack. You can highlight multiple units and put them into a formation or a group. Typically, I have all of my infantry in the same group. I then put my fast units in another, my cavalry, and my lords and spellcasters can stay separate. This can also help with the selecting part. Oh, I need to get to my lord quickly. I know where they're at in the selection. You can also drag your lord and put them in any group you want. Or take them right back out, or adjust their positioning in the lineup, as it were. Next, what I usually do is set the formation to a melee front. That will automatically slot your infantry units to the front line while putting your ranged units behind them. This is typical, easy defense, or just very basic military formation. You want to protect your ranged troops so they can keep firing for as long as possible, and rushing in your melee troops to engage the enemy as soon as possible so that they do not flank you and take down your ranged units. Now we have Vanguard deployment, so we get to put them up to this white line instead of the green. Same with our Chaos Warhounds in general, which we can set to attack this gate, while we have our monstrous infantry, aka cavalry for the beastmen, or heavy cavalry for the beastmen, and our lord to go attack this gate, while we have our shaman back up the infantry. Next, if you're curious and just want to know, you can check the stats of each of your troops right here, giving you different readouts on their abilities, basically their specs, their features, what makes them that particular unit. And if you check on their armor and see a small shield next to their name, or next to their armor stat, that basically means that they have a 55%, or if we check the bronze shield, a 35% chance of small arms missile fire not hitting them thanks to that shield. Silver shields provide a bit more, obviously, bronze 35, and silver with 55. Next, you'll typically see different stats next to their melee attack and weapon strength. So Taurox has armor piercing damage, so it can more easily attack armored units, and then flaming attacks to his melee attack, which does more damage to buildings. And his armor piercing attacks would inflict more damage on heavily armored units, so on and so forth. There's also magical attacks, poison attacks, and a few others in game. Next, you can control the stance of your troops. Typically, there is guard mode. So if, for instance, they have cavalry, they want to charge out, you'd want your troops to guard up and essentially brace for impact. That allows them to absorb more of the hit without losing as many troops. And I think that's everything. Again, if you have any questions throughout this, ladies and gentlemen, just ask them in the comments below. I will answer every single one to the best of my ability. Once your army is set up and in a position where you think you're going to be just fine, you can start the battle. Now, luckily, on the difficulty I selected, I can choose to pause or slow down or speed up the game depending on how I'm feeling. If it's starting to get a little chaotic, pause or hit slow motion, get in control, map out where you want your troops to go. So right now it's paused. I can direct them to attack. I can direct them to take the walls, essentially. I want these guys to fire on those dudes, these guys to fire on these guys, and I want these guys to break this gate. And then I want him to move up here. Now it's paused, and if you want to see what you just did with your specific troops, you just got to hover over them, okay? This red line means they're attacking whatever is at the end of this red line. Green means they're just moving. And then you can highlight troops to see who's all doing what. Okay, so we got these guys, they're going up to the wall. We got these archers attacking these archers attacking those guys, so on and so forth. And once you hit play again, your troops will start moving in accordance with your commands. You're the general, you're in charge, they listen to you. So we're attacking basically the full front gate. You could have distributed some troops onto the far side to attack that farther gate, or on this side here. However, the problem with splitting up your troops is that they are further away from your commander. The further they are away from your commander, the less leadership they have, and the more likely they are to rout. The more likely they are to rout, you're going to lose that unit and put you at a bit of a disadvantage as the battle moves forward. Same thing with the shaman. So we're going to move our shaman a little closer, and this should boost the leadership of these troops as they attack the walls. Because you see, these guys, they got a leadership of 46. Traditionally, archers have weaker leadership, but these guys, they're in range of my shaman, so they get a little bit of a buff. And if you want to see what that buff does, you can typically hover over, and then you get the stat. Encouraged by nearby units, base value is just 54, inspired by ability. So we're going to utilize our first spell, which is a Hex. It'll decrease the leadership, melee attack speed, and charge speed of the units it's hit with. So we want to hex this unit up here. So this unit is now hexed with that devolve. So they are more likely to rout. They are able to deal out less damage. They're slowed, and should help our attacking troops gain a better foothold on the wall. Now, typically you want to move your general, your guy, up closer so that they aren't dealing with that tower fire. And if you can hover over a tower to see what it's hitting or what range it has, and there's usually a bit of a blind spot. Now these guys are getting hit, so we want to get them out of there. We'll move them up to the enemy's walls so that they can start firing down upon the enemy. Now this gatehouse is almost down. This one's going to need a little more work. Never mind, the gate has been destroyed. They work quick. So we can send in our hounds to start attacking their archers and weaker troops. Hounds are good for just harassing weaker infantry and artillery. You really don't want them fighting sword infantry or spears, as they'll go down pretty quick. But you can take on a ranged unit and prevent them from firing on your troops now that they're engaged with your warhounds. Okay, so our infantry is kind of stalling out on the wall. So luckily our leader and the heavy cavalry have broken through and should be able to alleviate some of this attack that's hit up our main force. That's the whole point of mobile troops. Your lord, if they are mobile enough, you basically want them to assist the main force as much as possible. And they can do that by rushing in, disrupting ranged fire, and also just pulling focus from your main force. So as you see there, we just secured the gates, so this tower should no longer be firing on us, or at least the far towers within this area should no longer be firing on us, and it will also start giving us points towards total victory with each point captured. We don't necessarily see it on the bar right now, but it does help. Taurox has caused them to rout. They have taken too much damage or incurred too many losses. Taurox also causes fear, which degrades their leadership, so we can hop him off of that unit. Until that unit is fully broken with a white flag and skull next to it, they have a chance to come back, to basically re-enter the fight. So you have to take a mitigated risk. Do I keep that unit attacking said unit, or do I divert that unit to attack a more healthed up, basically a stronger unit? And I elected to take Taurox off of that unit to attack another group of archers, and they were able to come back. But luckily I have some spare Minotaurs to clear house, and they should be able to fully break these dark shards. They routed them once again, but they still potentially have the chance to come back. It isn't until they are fully broken, though, that we would see that. Now, throughout this battle, you're going to want to keep an eye on this this balance of power bar. You can hover over it to get an idea of what's been going on in the battle, as it gives you a full troop count, both of your troops, allied troop count, and the enemies. Now, the enemies have a little over 100 more troops than us, but the balance of power is severely in our favor, so the likelihood of victory is almost assured. But throughout the battle, this will ebb and flow based on how many troops are left, how many troops are routing, the health of troops on the field still, so on and so forth. Another good thing that this thankfully pointed out to me is if you see 3 Z's hover on your troop card, that basically means that they have no recent orders and are doing nothing on the battlefield. You don't want that to happen, because it could put you at an extreme disadvantage. So always try to find something for those troops to do. So my Warhounds, they got a little messed up in the fight because I forgot about them. So what I want to do with them is get them out of here. So I'm going to send them back out here. I'm going to just send them way over here. I don't want them anywhere near the fight anymore. I just want them finished. My Minotaurs are still fairly healthy and in good shape, so I'm going to send them in to attack these ranged troops and help out Taurox as he's surrounded. Your leadership decreases as more troops surround you, because panic starts to set in. So I appreciate that detail. Even for a 12-foot tall brass bull, their leadership still gets affected. And again, you hover over their leadership stat, and you can check it's a been hit by a bit of red, attacked in the flanks exposed, and a difficulty modifier. So because I decided to do a hard battle campaign setting, my difficulty modifier has decreased my leader's leadership by 2 already. So we want to get troops in there to assist. Same with our shaman. He's not doing anything, so we can cast another hex. We'll cast it on one of the units by Taurox. Give him some support. But your best bet is to keep your shaman alive and away from the front lines. Luckily, I've been able to capture the walls for the most part and eliminate their ranged troops, so they're safe right here. They're just limited in their ability since they only have one spell. However, they're still providing a leadership buff to my troops. So a lord nearby is giving him 3, and inspired by ability. Enemies routing. You can see all those stats as how it affects their leadership and how willing they are to stay. As there's a bit of a mosh pit going on in the center, I have an ability for my lord. Most lords start off with at least one ability or something that makes them special. Taurox has Blood Beast, which is basically a steam explosion coming from his torso. And we will get a look at that here in slow motion. Now, when you press it, it takes some time to activate. But there, he's surrounded. Now he has a chance to maybe get some breathing room and escape, let these other troops come in. So we'll get Taurox out of there, or at least attempt to, as the rest of his troops come in. Now go, Bob! Now I'm just checking, okay, who's doing what, who's doing nothing. All right, let's get them in the fight. Let's get these guys targeting. Taurox was able to escape thanks to the assist from those Minotaurs and his ability. So now he's no longer flanked. His leadership just went back above 80, which was his default, and we can send him back into the fray to assist. As he does assist our troops. And there you see army broken. They incurred too many losses, and you can see that if you hover over their banner essentially and click on it. Bleak Swords. Army losses is a negative 120 to leadership, so it's pretty much an auto fail. Get them out of here. They're done. But you can see just how much their leadership has been affected throughout the battle, and that's mainly due to Taurox and company just tearing stuff up. It doesn't show it on the stat line, but the army losses, and you can tell that the unit will not be coming back to the battlefield, mainly because the battle's over, but this skull and the white and red flag means that that unit is fully routed and will not be returning to the field. But that is basically siege battles and battles in general. Infantry up front with your ranged units behind them, your cavalry and fast units on the flanks, your lord somewhere behind your infantry, and in between your ranged units is the standard setup for most battles. Now, you can end the battle right now. However, you have the opportunity to eliminate the troops in this army and prevent them from coming back on a next battle, or if there are allies of this faction nearby, they could act as reinforcements. Now, with siege battles, you typically will eliminate the entirety of the defending force once you win the battle. But if this were an open field battle and you left troops alive, they would have the chance to escape and come back. So it's best to try and clear off as many units as possible. And it also helps with your units' XP, gaining them a little more XP, getting them to a higher level, which gives them different buffs and advantages. The more experience a unit has, the better they perform in battle. But yeah, you'll get a little post-battle message. It was a close victory, which is better than a Pyrrhic victory, so we were right to fight that one. You can save the replay. You can run a rematch if you want. You can also just decide to end the battle, which will take you back to that default, or to take you back to the campaign screen, basically the miniatures map. But yeah, that's basically how to play Warhammer 3 or Total War Warhammer 3 in 2024. If you have any questions in the chat, just let me, or have any questions in the comments, just let me know. I'm live streaming this, which you can find on my Twitch, Kick, or YouTube. One last thing, you get a post battle screen showing you your total deployed, losses, and remaining, and it can also show you how many units, or how many kills your units dealt out, so you can get a better idea of which units performed what specifically. So while these guys only had 7 kills, but they dealt 898 damage, these guys dealt 4 kills but 1,300 damage. But the gold value is the same. Still fairly worth it for both. This guy, on the other hand, only casted some spells, didn't do a whole lot, didn't get any kills, but was there for the assist. Now, of course, Taurox and the Minotaurs, those are your biggest and also best units, so typically you will see them perform the most kills, or they will be seen as having the most impact. But as you can see, the Warhounds, at least one of the units with 52 kills, outperformed the Minotaurs. That's just a basis on who is attacking what. So the Minotaurs were attacking heavier units, so this 47 kills is probably worth more than these 52 kills. But either way, it can just show the disparity between units and who they're attacking and what purpose they serve in your army. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, that's a very, very, very basic rundown of how to play Total War Warhammer 3 in 2024. And if you have any questions about Total War or how to play it, again, just let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.